I signed those divorce papers with champagne still on my breath, surrounded by people who never knew my name. My husband's mistress wore my grandmother's necklace, the one I pawned 3 years ago. What they didn't know? That necklace was about to reveal a family secret worth $3 billion. The crystal chandeliers were too bright. That's what I remember most about that Christmas party. They hung from the ceiling of the grand ballroom like frozen stars, casting light on women dripping in diamonds and men whose watches cost more than my car. This was Derek's world, his pharmaceutical empire's annual gala. 200 of the city's elite, all gathered to celebrate another year of his success. Another year of him climbing higher while I stood still, watching from the shadows. I wore a dress from 3 seasons ago. Navy blue, simple, elegant enough not to embarrass him, but forgettable enough that no one would remember I was there. That was my role after all. The wife. Not Derek's partner, not his equal, just the woman who used to matter before Giselle came along with her perfect figure and her Harvard MBA, and her ability to laugh at all his jokes like they were the funniest things she'd ever heard. I watched them from across the room, Derek's hand on the small of her back, that same touch he used to reserve for me. She threw her head back laughing, and that's when I saw it. The necklace, my grandmother's emerald necklace, the one with the golden filigree and the 3 teardrop emeralds that caught the light like captured raindrops. I felt my knees go weak. 3 years ago, when Derek's mother, Patricia, needed emergency surgery, or so she said, we didn't have the money. Derek's company was going through what he called a rough patch, and I had just been let go from my teaching position due to budget cuts. Patricia was crying, saying she couldn't afford the procedure, and Derek looked at me with those desperate eyes. So I went to the pawn shop on 5th Street, the one with the barred windows and the flickering neon sign, and I sold the only thing I had left of my grandmother. The man behind the counter gave me $8,000. I cried the whole way home. Later, I found out Patricia's emergency surgery was a facelift, elective, cosmetic, completely unnecessary. But by then, the necklace was gone, and Derek told me I was being dramatic when I got upset about it. Now here it was, hanging around Giselle's neck like it belonged there, like she had earned it, like it hadn't been ripped from my family, from my history, from the only connection I had left to the grandmother who used to sing me French lullabies before she died. I must have been staring because Patricia appeared beside me like a viper in Versace. She was a tall woman, all sharp angles and sharper words, with silver hair pulled back so tight it looked painful. She held a champagne flute in one hand and an envelope in the other. "Lorraine," she said, my name sounding like an insult in her mouth. "I'm glad you're here. Saves me the trouble of tracking you down after the holidays." She handed me the envelope. Cream-colored, expensive paper, the kind that whispered money and power. I didn't need to open it to know what it was, but I did anyway. My hands shook as I pulled out the papers. Divorce decree, all typed up, official, just waiting for my signature. "Do us all a favor," Patricia said, loud enough that the people nearby turned to look. "Sign these tonight. Derek's been patient long enough, don't you think? It's time to let him move on with someone more suitable." The word hung in the air like smoke. Suitable. Not someone like me. Not the black girl from the South Side who put herself through community college working 3 jobs. Not the woman who supported Derek when his company was just a dream and a business plan. Not the wife who stood by him through every failure and struggle. Someone suitable. Someone like Giselle, with her trust fund and her connections and her skin that didn't make Patricia's country club friends uncomfortable. I looked around the ballroom. Everyone was watching now. The whispers started, spreading like wildfire through the crowd. I saw the pity in some eyes, the satisfaction in others. I saw Derek across the room, and for a moment, our eyes met. I waited for him to come over, to tell his mother to back off, to stand up for me just once. He looked away. That's when something inside me broke. Not shattered. Breaking would have been too dramatic, too final. This was quieter, like a door closing softly, like the last light going out in a house you're leaving forever. I walked through the crowd, the sea of designer gowns and tailored tuxedos parting for me like I was contagious. I found Derek in his private office, the one just off the main ballroom. Giselle was with him, of course. She was perched on his desk, and his hands were on her waist, and they were laughing about something until I opened the door. "Lorraine," Derek said, stepping back from Giselle like I'd caught him doing something wrong, which I suppose I had. Again. "What are you doing here?" "That necklace," I said, pointing at Giselle. My voice was steadier than I expected. "Where did you get it?" Giselle's hand flew to her throat, touching the emeralds like they might protect her. "Derek bought it for me," she said. "For Christmas. It's gorgeous, isn't it?" "It was my grandmother's." Derek shrugged. Just shrugged, like it didn't matter, like my pain was an inconvenience. "Giselle saw it at an estate sale last month. She loved it. I bought it for her. It's just a necklace, Lorraine. Stop being so dramatic." Just a necklace. My grandmother's legacy, reduced to just a necklace. I wanted to scream. I wanted to rip it off Giselle's neck. I wanted to make Derek understand what he'd taken from me. But I didn't do any of those things. Instead, I turned around and walked back to the party. Patricia was waiting with a pen. She held it out to me like a weapon, her smile sharp and victorious. The room had gone quiet. 200 people, all watching the pathetic wife sign away her marriage at a Christmas party. I'm sure they'd be talking about this for months. I took the pen. My hand was shaking so badly I could barely hold it, but I pressed it to the paper and signed my name. Lorraine Baptiste, not Lorraine Crawford. I'd never taken Derek's last name, though he'd pushed for it. Something in me had held back, some instinct I didn't understand at the time. "Finally," Patricia breathed. "Some dignity." Derek appeared then, Giselle on his arm, and he kissed her right there in front of everyone. A long, deliberate kiss meant to erase me, to write me out of his story. The crowd clapped. Actually clapped. Like this was entertainment, like my humiliation was the evening's highlight. I walked out into the December snow without my coat. The cold hit me like a slap, but I welcomed it. I needed to feel something other than the numbness spreading through my chest. I got in my car, a 10-year-old sedan with a broken heater, and I drove. I didn't know where I was going. I just drove. That's when my phone rang. I almost didn't answer. Unknown number, probably a spam call, but something made me pick up. Instead of a person, I got a voicemail. The message was brief, professional, urgent. "Ms. Lorraine Baptiste, this is Khalil Okonkwo from Okonkwo and Associates legal firm. We've been trying to reach you regarding your grandmother Celeste Baptiste's estate. This is a time-sensitive matter. Please contact us immediately at the number I'm about to provide." I had to pull over. Celeste Baptiste. I hadn't heard that name in years. My grandmother died when I was 7, and I barely remembered her. Just flashes, her singing in French, her laugh, the smell of her perfume, the way she used to call me her little jewel. My mother never talked about her, said it was too painful. She died a few years after Grandma, and I was passed between foster homes until I aged out at 18. I called the number back, my heart pounding. A receptionist answered, put me through immediately even though it was almost midnight. Mr. Okonkwo's voice was warm, professional, with a slight accent I couldn't place. "Ms. Baptiste, thank you for calling back. I know this is unusual timing, but I've been searching for you for 8 months. Can you come to our office? Tonight, if possible. I promise you, this cannot wait." I drove to their office building downtown, a sleek glass tower that seemed to pierce the snowy sky. Mr. Okonkwo met me in the lobby personally. He was a tall man in his 50s with kind eyes and an expensive suit. He led me to a conference room where another lawyer waited, a woman named Diane Chen, and they sat me down like I was something precious, something fragile. "Ms. Baptiste," Mr. Okonkwo began, "what do you know about your grandmother?" "Nothing really. She died when I was young. My mother didn't talk about her." "Your grandmother was Celeste Baptiste Rousseau," he said, sliding a photograph across the table. It showed a stunning black woman in her 30s, dripping in jewels, standing in front of what looked like a palace. She was the daughter of Henri Rousseau, who built a shipping and luxury resort empire across the Caribbean in the 1950s. When she fell in love with your grandfather, Marcus Baptiste, a jazz musician from New Orleans, her family disowned her. They cut her off completely. She chose love over billions. I stared at the photograph. I could see my face in hers, my eyes, my smile. I don't understand. Your grandmother's brother Jean-Claude spent his life trying to find her, to reconcile. He never did. He died last year with no children, no heirs. For the past decade, the family's lawyers have been searching for any descendants of Celeste. You, Lorraine, are the only one, the sole surviving heir to the Baptiste Rousseau fortune. The room spun. How much? The estate is currently valued at $3.2 billion. It includes a shipping company, 12 luxury resorts, properties in Paris, Monaco, and the Caribbean, extensive art collections, and various investments. We've been waiting for DNA confirmation, which we received last week. You are unquestionably Celeste's granddaughter. I laughed. I couldn't help it. It was either laugh or cry, and I'd done enough crying for one night. You're telling me I'm a billionaire? Yes, Ms. Baptiste, you are. For 2 weeks I told no one. I met with lawyers, signed documents, underwent more DNA tests, learned about my grandmother's life and the empire she'd walked away from for love. I moved through it all in a daze, still living in my car most nights because I couldn't bear to go back to the apartment I'd shared with Derek. Then, during one of our meetings, Mr. Okonkwo mentioned something that made my blood run cold. There's one item missing from the estate inventory, he said, flipping through papers. An emerald necklace, custom-made in Paris in 1952. 3 teardrop emeralds set in golden filigree. It was your grandmother's favorite piece. Current estimated value is $4.7 million. Do you know anything about it? I told him everything. The pawn shop, Derek buying it for Giselle, seeing it at the party. Mr. Okonkwo and Diane exchanged looks. The necklace was never legally sold, Diane said quietly. 15 years ago, it was stolen from a storage unit containing your grandmother's personal effects. The pawn shop bought it from a known fence. Anyone currently in possession of it is liable for possession of stolen property. Mr. Okonkwo smiled, and it wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile of a man who knew exactly how to destroy someone. Then we have them, don't we? We crafted the plan carefully. Derek was throwing a New Year's Eve party, celebrating his engagement to Giselle. They'd moved fast. I received an invitation, probably Patricia's idea of a final insult. Perfect. I spent the next 2 weeks transforming. Hair, makeup, wardrobe, everything. I met with personal shoppers and stylists who understood the assignment. Make them regret everything. On New Year's Eve, I walked into that party wearing a gown that cost more than Derek's car, my hair styled in elegant curls, my makeup flawless. I looked like money because I was money. I looked like power because I held all of it now. Derek didn't recognize me at first. He actually walked past me, then did a double take that would have been comical if it wasn't so satisfying. Lorraine, what are you doing here? Patricia appeared, her face going pale. Giselle clung to Derek's arm, the emerald necklace glittering at her throat. I came to collect something that belongs to me, I said, my voice steady and strong. I pointed at the necklace. That. You need to leave, Derek said, but his voice shook. You're embarrassing yourself. Am I? I smiled. Mr. Okonkwo, would you mind? The lawyer stepped forward from where he'd been waiting by the entrance, along with Diane and 4 police officers. The room went silent. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Okonkwo announced, his voice carrying across the ballroom, the necklace currently worn by Ms. Giselle Turner is stolen property, part of the Baptiste Rousseau estate. Ms. Turner is in possession of stolen goods, and Mr. Derek Crawford is implicated in the purchase of said goods from illegal sources. This is insane, Derek sputtered. I bought it legally from an estate sale. There was no estate sale, Mr. Crawford, Diane said, holding up documentation. You purchased it from a dealer who bought it from a known fence. We have traced the entire chain of custody. The necklace was stolen 15 years ago and has been illegally circulated ever since. The police moved forward. Giselle's face crumpled as they explained she was being arrested for possession of stolen property. Derek started shouting about lawyers and lawsuits. Patricia looked like she might faint. I stepped forward, and the room fell silent again. "Let me introduce myself properly," I said. "I'm Lorraine Celeste Baptiste, sole heir to the Baptiste Rousseau fortune. My grandmother built an empire, and I've just inherited it. All $3.2 billion of it." The gasps rippled through the crowd. Derek's face went from red to white. "And Derek?" I continued. "Your company? The one you built with my money? Every time you needed an investor and couldn't find one, every time you needed a loan and the banks turned you down, you came to me. You took money from my savings, from my teacher's salary, from the life insurance policy my mother left me. $60,000 over the course of our marriage. I have every receipt, every text message, every email where you promised to pay me back." We were married. That was our money," he stammered. "We had a prenup, Derek, remember? Your mother insisted on it. She wanted to protect your assets. Well, it works both ways. That was my money, and I'm calling in the debt, every penny, with interest." Mr. Okonkwo smiled. "We've already filed the lawsuit, Mr. Crawford. We'll be seeing you in court." Patricia actually did faint then. Someone caught her before she hit the ground. Derek stared at me like he'd never seen me before. Maybe he hadn't. Maybe he'd only ever seen what he wanted to see. Someone small, someone forgettable, someone he could use and discard. "You can't do this," he whispered. "Watch me." 6 months later, Derek's pharmaceutical company declared bankruptcy. He couldn't repay what he owed, and his investors abandoned him when they realized he'd built his empire on borrowed money and lies. Giselle served 6 months in minimum security for possession of stolen property. Patricia moved into a retirement community that was nice enough, but nowhere near the luxury penthouse she'd been planning. As for me, I took over the family business. I expanded the resorts, modernized the shipping company, and honored my grandmother's legacy by doing what she would have done. I built something beautiful. I started a foundation for women leaving bad marriages, providing them with legal support, financial assistance, and housing. I thought about all those nights I spent in my car, too afraid to ask for help, too ashamed to admit I'd failed. No one should have to feel that way. No one should have to choose between dignity and survival. I'm sitting in my office now, in the headquarters building in Martinique, looking out at the ocean. There's a photograph on my desk, my grandmother as a young woman, standing beside my grandfather, both of them laughing like they'd just heard the world's best joke. She gave up billions for love, and she never regretted it. She lived a full, beautiful life with the man she adored. I think about that sometimes. About the choices we make, the prices we pay, the legacies we leave behind. That Christmas party was supposed to be my ending, the final humiliation, the last chapter of a sad story about a woman who wasn't enough. Instead, it was the beginning of everything I was always meant to be. They tried to erase me, to make me invisible, to convince me I was nothing without them. But you can't erase a legacy written in blood and bone. You can't make invisible someone who was always meant to shine. I am Lorraine Celeste Baptiste, and I am finally home. So what did you think? Did Derek get what he deserved? Drop a comment below and let me know what you would have done with $3 billion and a stolen necklace. If this story gave you chills or made you believe in karma again, hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life justice stories. Because trust me, the universe always pays what's owed. See you in the next one.